Derby friends at home, welcome back to online coverage of the 2017 BESTERNS tournament, hosted by the Rocky Mountain Roller Girls here at the Foothills Fieldhouse in Lakewood, Colorado. My name is Mark Bradford, sometimes known as Brad Example. I will be bringing this game to you. This is the, let's see here. Let me check my schedule. This is the fifth game of the day and of the tournament, featuring the No Coast Derby Girls from Lincoln, Nebraska versus the Sac City Rollers. The team is called the Capital Punishers. They are from Sacramento, California, which of course is the capital of California. We got Sac City wearing white for this game. No Coast is wearing black. Just over a minute until the game is scheduled to start. On the overall roster for No Coast, we've got number 00 Ripa, number 11 Velvet Crush, number 111 Matadora, number 12 Chubakma, number 152 Anthrax Annie, number 3 Sly Roller, number 32 Flash, number 34 Slam Anderson, number 350 Betty Rocker, number 37 is Brooke N. Hearts, number 45 is Sylvia Bullet, number 451 is Babe, number 48 Frostbite, number 5 Stormstiss, number 555 Money, number 565 Fancy, number 666 Sunshine, number 707 Honey Smacks, number 82 Bully McSkater, and number 88 Bubbles. On the roster for Sac City, we've got number 10 Annie Rexick, number 1006 Naylor Swift, number 1013 Red Horde Tornado, number 117 She Raw, number 12 Devastate Her, number 1492 Conquistadorable, number 15 Whiplash, number 1985 Con Artist, number 243 Slappa Ho, number 279 Spankenstein, number 4256 Charlie Bustle, number 503 Enemy of the State, number 51 Purdy Girl, number 6 Beastie Toys, Captain, number 69 Quickfire, and number 86 Slice and Dice. So the period clock counts down to 0, the intermission clock, so just as soon as the officials are ready, we'll be getting this bout underway. So number 15, Whiplash, has the first star for Sac City. And as far as number 34, Slam Anderson, has the star for No Coast. She's the first one through, lead jammer for No Coast. Getting things off the bat here. Coming around to the pack just as Whiplash is able to get out of the pack. Slam has control, gets through the pack, earns 4 points, calls it off. First blood to the No Coast Derby Girls of Lincoln, Nebraska. Coming up next on the jammer line for Sac City, number 503, Enemy of the State, skating against number 48, Frostbite, for No Coast. Continuing the trend of the weekend, both teams very strong on defense. Takes the jammers a minute to get through. The first one through is number 503, Enemy of the State. So one lead call for each team so far. Number 48, Frostbite, clear of the pack for No Coast and hot in pursuit. Enemy of the State calls it off pretty much as soon as she hits the pack, and no points scored on that jam. Remaining 4-0, advantage No Coast after 2 jams, 28 minutes and change on the first period clock. Next jammer for Sac City is number 1006, Nail Her Swift, and we wound up with Frostbite in the penalty box. So it's a power start for Sac City. Capitalizing by getting through on the inside line, lead jammer. A clear field for Naylor Swift. Coming up to the pack now. We do have Frostbite standing in the penalty box, poised to re-enter. And Naylor Swift takes a seat in the penalty box. So we're going to be trading penalties here. No lead jammer at this point. We're going to go the remaining minute and 20 seconds of this third jam of the game. Frostbite through the pack, clear to score for No Coast. A few seconds of power play remaining. Frostbite into the pack, picking up points. That should be good for the knot on the track point, and in fact, a grand slam awarded to Frostbite. Power jam over now, though, as Naylor Swift is back in the mix, trying to complete the earlier scoring pass. 5 more for No Coast. Naylor Swift being held up by number 00, Ripa, at the back of the pack for No Coast. Frostbite up to the front of the pack, meeting resistance there. Through for an additional 5 points. That's 15 on the jam so far for Frostbite. 5 points for Naylor Swift, completing the earlier power pass. And coming around for another scoring pass. Only 5 seconds remaining in the jam. Frostbite in the pack for points as well. That ends up being 4 points apiece for those jammers to round out the jam. Total on the jam is 19-9 advantage No Coast, taking the total score to 23-9. Sac City is on the board now. Coming up to jam, we got number 243, Slappa Ho for Sac City. Taking on a jammer whose number I cannot yet see. It is number 12, Chubakma, taking the start for the first time for No Coast. Slappa is the first one through, lead jammer. No Coast's pivot is headed to the penalty box. But Chubakma is through and clear to score. Flying through the air, Slappa calls off the jam. Did not successfully score on that pass. So we're going to keep the score at 23-9, advantage No Coast, with about 24.5 remaining on the first period of clock. Coming up next, number 15, Whiplash, back to the line for Sac City. Taking on number 34, Slime Anderson. So far we're seeing a 3-jammer rotation for No Coast, 4-jammer rotation for Sac City. Whiplash, first one through, lead jammer. Sac City racking up a pretty good lead percentage, but No Coast has been able to create a few more points on the board. Slam Anderson clear to score for No Coast. Whiplash through the back. Calls it off with a 4-point pass. That reduces the differential to 10 points. 23 for No Coast, 13 for Sac City after the first 5 jams of the game. 23.5 on the first period clock. Number 503, Anomi of the State, back for Sac City. And number 48, Frostbite, returning to the line for No Coast. Frostbite tries the outside, does not find a path. Anomi of the State pushing up the middle. Frostbite tries on the outside again, this time gets through, lead jammer. Number 6'9", Quickfire, taking a seat in the penalty box from the Sac City pack. Frostbite through the pack. It's good for 5 points. Clockwise block assessed to number 152. That is Anthrax Annie from the No Coast pack. Frostbite back in the pack for more points. That's 5 of them. 10 so far on the jam. Enemy of the State does get through the pack after removing the jammer star, meaning that this is a 4-point pass for Frostbite. Frostbite waiting for the right time, calls off the jam. No further points on the jam. It's 14 on the No Coast side of the board. Takes the overall score to 37-13. Advantage Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska. Just under 22 minutes to go in our first period. No Coast wants to give a shout out to No Coast Nation. So thanks to all those folks who might be tuning in over the intertubes. Number 451, Babe, taking the star for the first time in this game for No Coast. Their fourth jammer to take the star. Number 1006, Nail Her Swift, is going to jam for Sac City. Up the outside, Babe is your lead jammer for No Coast. Nail Her Swift recycled back behind the jammer line, has to take another shot at this. Babe into the pack, 4 points, pushed into the infield, has to recycle. And Nail Her Swift is clear to score. Babe shows awareness, calls off the jam, picked up, 4 points on the jam. That takes No Coast to 40. Oh, correction, it looks like they put 5 points on the board. So that takes No Coast to 42. Clock about 20.5 minutes to go in the first period. We've got number 34, Slam Anderson, jamming for No Coast. Squared off against number 243, Slappa. 34 pushing in the front, 243 coming up through. Both are out, but Slam Anderson is declared lead. Has control. Slappa gets out past Slam. So Slam does appear to be waiting for the right moment, calls it off. This is going to be a 100% point-free jam. Keeps the score at 42-13. With just under 20 minutes now to play in our first period. Number 15, Whiplash, returning to the line for Sac City. And Frostbite again for No Coast. So early in this period, we saw a string of lead calls go Sac City's way, but for the last 3 jams in a row, that has gone to No Coast. That streak is broken as Whiplash gets through first. Lead jammer for Sac City. Frostbite powers out the front of the pack. Scoring pass completed for Whiplash. It's good for 4 points. And there's the call off. That's going to be all the points scored on that particular jam. Score now 42-17. Advantage the team in black from Lincoln, Nebraska, No Coast. Both of these leagues were founded in 2006. The Mad Maxines of No Coast joined the WFTDA a little sooner in 2007, whereas the Capital Punishers of the Sac City Rollers joined in 2012. Number 12, Chewbacca, off the line for the No Coast team, and for Sac City is number 503, Enemy of the State. Enemy up close to the front, still trying to get through, and ducks to the inside line. Lead jammer, Sac City. Chewbacca still working on getting through on the initial pass. And we got a scoring pass going on for Enemy of the State. 5 points go on the Sac City side of the board. We have a star pass by No Coast to number 3, Sly Roller. But the jam is going to be called off before Sly can get there. 2 additional points awarded to Enemy of the State. Slam Anderson still in the pack. Now Slam gets out. Naylor Swift picking up points in the pack. Gets out the front. 4 points. Chooses the right moment. Calls off the jam. 42-28 now. Advantage No Coast. No Coast coming into this tournament ranked number 39 in the Women's Flat Track Derby Association. Ranked number 63 is Sac City. So in the first 4 games of this tournament, we saw rankings upsets in every one of them. By those rankings, No Coast is favored. Let's see what happens. Number 48, Frostbite, jamming for No Coast. Squared off against, who's that? That's Slappa, number 243 for Sac City. And that's the first one through. Slappa is lead jammer. Frostbite gets out of the pack as well. So race for points. Slappa is scoring, hits the deck, calls off the jam from the floor. It's good for 3 points for Sac City. 42-31. Sac City has chipped the lead down to 11 points. Just over 15 minutes to go in period number 1. For 451 Babe returning to the line for No Coast. Taking on number 15 Whiplash. We do have an official review being called by No Coast. So that stops the clock at 15 minutes and 14 seconds. Thanks again for tuning into this online coverage of BESTERNS 2017 edition, hosted by the Rocky Mountain Roller Girls at the Foothills Fieldhouse here in beautiful Lakewood, Colorado, west of Denver. Sac City sends a shout out to Bawdy for a birthday. Happy birthday, Bawdy. I do not know the nature of the official review. If by chance I should find that out, I will, of course, let you know. It's a little difficult because we stream announcers for this particular event are kind of in the behind a glass booth. My name is Mark Bradford. Some people call me Brad Example. Thank you for tuning into this coverage. It's been a little while since I have seen these teams play, so it's good to catch up with them. I have had the enjoyment of traveling to Lincoln, Nebraska in the past to see a game hosted at No Coast's venue at the time, which unfortunately I believe has been torn down. It was a nice venue. It was called the Pershing Center. Official review continues. The clock is not changing. Still at 15 minutes, 14 seconds. Please do feel free to tweet or Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever it is you kids today do online to let people know about this event feed. It'll be going on all weekend. This is the 5th game of the tournament. It will be followed by game number 6 at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, featuring Arizona playing their first game of the weekend against the winners of the 3rd game of the day, Treasure Valley from Boise, Idaho. I'll be on the mic for that one here in the house. You will be able to enjoy the dulcet tones of Justice Feelgood Marshall here on the feed for that one. This seems to be a tricky one to figure out as the official review continues. It's been going on for just about 3 minutes now. So I've heard that there was a request for a clockwise block penalty that was not granted, and so the official review is not retained for No Coast. Jimmy of the state taking the star for Sac City. And number 451, Babe, will be jamming for No Coast. No Coast has a braced square at the back of the pack, braced triangle at the top of the pack for Sac City. That's where Babe is trying to get through and around. Fierce defense from both teams. Yeah, Babe not having a lot of luck at the front of the pack. Enemy of the State kind of powers up the middle, gets out first, lead jammer. So that is the fourth lead call. Actually, no. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sixth lead call in a row for Sac City. That is how they've been able to chip the 29-point lead of No Coast down into single digits. And doing damage to that lead even further right now as Enemy of the State gets through the pack. Picks up 5. We do have a star pass to number 3 slide roller for No Coast, but no chance for points there as Enemy of the State calls it off. So that ends up in a total score of 39-42, only 3 points. We see Frostbite coming back to the line for No Coast, and Naylor Swift, number 1006 for Sac City. Naylor Swift continuing the streak of lead calls for Sac City. This time Frostbite is out fairly close behind. Let's see if Naylor Swift can do any damage before being forced to call it off. The No Coast blockers have moved up to control the front of the pack. Naylor Swift calls it off from the floor. And in fact, No Coast steals 2 points on the jam. So that's going to take the score back up to 44-39, advantage No Coast. Just about 12 minutes remaining in our first period of play. Slam Anderson, number 34, with the star for No Coast. Number 243, Slappa Ho for Sac City. Slappa encounters defense at the back of the pack. Slam at the front of the pack. And Slam is the first one through. First lead jammer call in a minute for No Coast. They have no desire to be denied. Into the pack, 4 points. 3 strong defenders at the front of the pack for Sac City. Slappa removed the star, has gotten out of the pack, cleared to score, but has an entire lap to go before getting back into the pack. Slam Anderson does not get it called off before Slappa gets into the pack for points. It's called off now, but I believe we've got 4 points apiece on this jam, and actually 5 points awarded to No Coast, 4 for Sac City. That gives us a 6-point differential in favor of No Coast. Frostbite back to the line for No Coast. Squared off against number 15, Whiplash. Tough defense right in front of the jammer line. Whoa, flying through the air. A bit of a hard landing. Frostbite back up. Trying another take through this pack. And Whiplash is penalized. It is a power play for No Coast and Frostbite. We have not seen a lot of jammer penalties so far in this game. Definitely not the controlling factor in the score. And we are trading places of these jammers in the penalty box as Frostbite takes a seat. But now re-enters. We have both jammers in, no lead jammer. We have 1 minute to go in this jam. Nobody can call it off no how. Clockwise block being assessed over in turn number 1. Apparently for number 82, Bully McSkater from No Coast. Whiplash clear to score now. Frostbite currently at the back of the pack that's moving into turn number 3. Whiplash scouts away through that pack. 4 points going on Sac City's side of the board. We have a star pass from No Coast to number 350, Betty Rocker. Whiplash completing a pass for another 4 points, and time expires. Total of 4 points going up on No Coast's side. So when the dust settles, we've got 53 to 51, advantage No Coast still, but down to a 2-point lead. Official timeout is going to stop the clock at 8 minutes and 10 seconds. So some consultation going on. Again, thank you so much for tuning into this online coverage of BESTERNS 2017 edition, hosted by the Rocky Mountain Roller Girls. Give another shout out from No Coast to Derby Baby and Family, Gail and Antonio. Are those the same people? I don't know. But shout out to those folks anyway from No Coast. Official timeout continues, coming up on the 1 minute mark for that. 8 minutes, 10 seconds to play in our first half. The score has not changed, 53 to 51. We have a request on the live chat to adjust the scoreboard a little bit. We might be able to do that. For now, I can tell you that No Coast has held the lead the entire game, but that lead has been chipped away to only 2 points right now. 53 No Coast, 51 Sac City. So to repeat what I mentioned earlier, No Coast is the higher ranked team right now in the WFTDA with a rank of 39 coming into this weekend. 63 is the rank for Sac City, but they're sure not playing like there's a differential of 24 places. And in the first 4 games of the weekend, there were rankings upsets. So that's why we actually play these games, to see what happens. Official timeout continues now in its 3rd minute. We shall see. It's not an official review, it's an official timeout. So neither team is being charged for this. We do have jammers already lined up for the next jam, namely number 503, Enemy of the State for Sac City, and number 34, Slam Anderson for No Coast. Great time for me to give a thanks and a shout out to all of the officials, skating and non-skating, who are volunteering their time this weekend to make everything run correctly. We just saw the signal given to the jam timer to end the official timeout. So stand by for a resumption of derby action. Slam Anderson hits the pack first. Enemy of the State is facing defense by No Coast at the back of the pack. Neither jammer having an easy time getting through the pack. Slam Anderson pushed into the outfield, stays out of bounds to avoid the track cutting penalty. Finds the right spot to sneak back inbounds. Clockwise blocking penalty assessed to number 117 of Sac City, She Raw. Might have been worth it, though, since number 503, Enemy of the State, is lead jammer for Sac City. Slam Anderson also cleared a score not far behind Enemy of the State. A timely call off prevents Slam Anderson from scoring 3 points for Sac City, and you did that math correctly. We now have a lead change, 54-53. For the first time in the game, Sac City has the lead. Number 1006, Naylor Swift taking the next star for Sac City. Taking on number 12, Chubakma for No Coast. Chubakma trying to go out the outside, finds no purchase, goes to the inside. Naylor Swift recycled back behind the jammer line. Naylor Swift tries again on the outside line, no success there. Penalty assessed to number 5. That's Stormstis from No Coast. Joined by number 0, Ripa from No Coast. However, that has all resulted in Chubakma getting out first, lead jammer for No Coast. Naylor Swift also cleared a score about a third of a turn back. Chubakma calls it off. How are they going to call that? They're going to give 4 points to Sac City and 3 to No Coast. So now we have a tremendous 2-point lead, hard won by Sac City, 58-56, with about 5.5 on the period clock. Then we will have a 15-minute halftime. Team timeout being called now by No Coast. That stops the clock at 5 minutes and 36 seconds. For those of you new to roller derby, each team does get 3 team timeouts they can call between jams. They stop the clock for 60 seconds. One reason to hang on to those is if there are fewer than 30 seconds remaining at the end of a period, they will not run another jam unless one of the teams does call timeout. Each team also gets 1 official review per period, although if they win their first official review, they get it back. That trick only works once, though. Maximum of 2 official reviews per period per team. Please do stay tuned online, Facebook and Twitter and all of those things, for more news from 2017 BESTERNS hosted by the Rocky Mountain Roller Girls. That whistle that you may have heard leaking through my microphone is signaled the end of the timeout. We see Slappa jamming for Sac City. We see Slam Anderson jamming for No Coast. Slappa through first, lead jammer, Sac City. But a quick star pass to number 3, Sly Roller. And both jammers are making best speed for the pack. Called off with a 2-0 jam win for Sac City. 60-56. I mean, that is just 1 pass's worth of points separating these 2 teams with just under 5 minutes to play until halftime. Number 48, Frostbite, jamming in the black of No Coast, jamming in the white of Sac City. Number 15, Whiplash, who goes up the outside and earns lead. Frostbite doesn't waste a lot of time getting out, about a third of a turn behind Whiplash. And the No Coast blockers are holding the front of the pack to make things more difficult for Whiplash. Both jammers now in the pack for points. Whiplash completes the scoring pass, picks up 4. Frostbite still in the pack. We see number 82, Bully McSkater, taking a seat in the penalty box from the No Coast pack. Whiplash gets through and calls it off for 5 points on that pass. Total of 9 on the jam compared to the 4 points collected by No Coast. So 69-60 now is the score. This is the largest lead that Sac City has had in the game. We have fewer than 4 minutes to go until halftime. Enemy of the State jamming for Sac City. Slam Anderson doing a lot of work out there for No Coast and now able to pick up lead for the team from Lincoln. Both jammers are free of the pack. Slam has a slight lead over Enemy of the State. Calls off the jam. Points are 3 for No Coast, 1 for Sac City. So it may not seem like much, but that is the best jam that No Coast has had against Sac City in the last, about 5 jams. 63-71 is your score. Naylor Swift jamming for Sac City. Babe jamming for No Coast. Both jammers still on the initial pass. But it's Naylor Swift who gets out first, lead jammer for Sac City. Taking an outside line, pretty much untouched. That's a grand slam for Sac City. And it's going to push their lead up into double digits. Babe sneaks through on the inside, puts the jammer cap back on. Nevertheless, 5 points collected by Sac City. Naylor Swift calls it off. 10 points altogether on the jam. It's 81-63 with under 2 minutes until halftime. Sac City wanting to ride this momentum into the second period of this game. Momentum has been on their side since about the 8th jam. They've chipped away at No Coast's lead and established now a double-digit lead of their own. You see number 48, Frostbite, taking the star again for No Coast. Working hard out there. Slappa has the star for Sac City. Neither jammer able to get through yet. Just then, Frostbite made it lead jammer 2 in a row. No. Trading leads with Sac City. Frostbite coming up to the pack, into the pack, earning points. Star pass on Sac City's side to number 69, Quickfire. Jam called off with 4 on the No Coast side. That's going to reduce Sac City's lead. 67-81. Advantage Sac City with under 30 seconds on the period clock. This should be the last jam of the first period. Slam Anderson back to the line for No Coast. Whiplash back to the line for Sac City. Whiplash bumped in the outfield, recycled back behind the jammer line. Slam Anderson pushing at the front, out lead jammer. Whiplash still on the initial pass. So big opportunity here for Slam Anderson. Whiplash gets out now. Slam Anderson in the pack for points. Completes the scoring pass. Calls it off. That's likely to be 4. Yes, it is 4 for No Coast. That'll take us into halftime with a 10-point lead for Sac City, 81-71. If this goes on, it will be yet another rankings upset here at BESTERNS 2017, hosted by the Rocky Mountain Roller Girls. So a couple of quick, highly unofficial statistics. Sac City has 60% of the lead jammer calls, which is what helped them bring things back from a deficit into a lead. It's only a 10-point lead, but, that counts. High scorer of the game so far, again, unofficially, is number 48 for No Coast, Frostbite, with 47 points. Followed by 2 jammers for Sac City. Whiplash has 28, and Naylor Swift has 27. So, folks, we're going to go into a 15-minute halftime, of which 14 minutes remain. We'll be back with you in a little bit. My name is Mark Bradford. Some people call me Brad Example. Look forward to talking to you for our second period. Friends of roller derby back home, welcome back to online coverage of the 2017 edition of the BESTERNS tournament, hosted by the Rocky Mountain Roller Girls at the Foothills Fieldhouse in Lakewood, Colorado. Under a minute remaining until we resume play. We're coming into the second period of the Sac City Rollers playing the No Coast Derby Girls. No Coast is ranked higher in the Women's Flat Track Derby Association, but at the moment there's a 10-point lead for Sac City. Sac City built up that lead over a long period of time, and just in the last couple of jams of the first period, No Coast managed to get a little bit of traction and cut it down by a few points. Let's see what happens in period number 2. I did a little espionage at halftime and found that No Coast picked up 21 penalties in the first period of play. The only skater in real penalty trouble is number 00, Ripa, who has 5. If she gets to 7, that'll be a foul out. 14 penalties on Sac City's side of the equation. We're seeing number 15, Whiplash, square off on the jammer line against number 34, Slam Anderson, which happens to be the same pair of jammers who finished out the first period of play. Slam Anderson comes out swinging and gets through the pack in a hurry. Lead jammer for No Coast. Whiplash clear to score as well, but Slam Anderson already scoring. Through the pack, calls it off. That should be a 4-0 in favor of No Coast, and so it is. So first blood in the second period goes to No Coast, just as it did in the first period. Only about 30 seconds off the period clock in that jam. We see number 503, Enemy of the State, getting ready to jam against number 48, Frostbite for No Coast. No Coast in the black, Sac City in the white. Frostbite trying on the outside line. Enemy of the State kind of going up the middle. Fierce defense at the top of the pack by Sac City, but Frostbite sneaks through. Lead jammer, No Coast. Enemy of the State through as well. Only about a quarter turn behind. Frostbite coming in for points. And Enemy of the State will score as well. Jam called off. Scoring is 4-4. So that does not change the score differential. Keeps it at 6-point lead for Sac City, 85-79, with just about 28 minutes to play in the game. And number 1006, Naylor Swift, taking the star for Sac City. Number 34, Slam Anderson, back on the line after only one jam away for No Coast. Slam Anderson powering up the inside lead jammer. That's 3 in a row for No Coast. Naylor Swift gets out on the outside, but is a full half turn behind Slam Anderson. Slam Anderson into the pack, 4 points. Calls it off, but it wasn't in time. We got 1 point for Sac City, 2 for No Coast. Still an advantage for No Coast from Lincoln, Nebraska. So we got a 5-point game on our hands, 86-81. Taking the jammer line, number 12, Chubakma for No Coast. Number 243, Slappa for Sac City. Play underway. Slappa pushing at the top of the pack, tries the outside line. A track cut is being assessed to a skater, but neither of the jammers. In fact, Slappa is the first one through. Lead jammer. Oh no, the track cut is assessed to Chubakma. So this is an opportunity for Slappa to put some unanswered points on the board. There's 5 of them right there. So power play favoring Sac City and not even slowing down really. Another 5 points picked up by Slappa. Sac City trying to put some daylight between themselves and No Coast. Slappa calls off the jam. No further points, but does ice Chubakma in the penalty box until next jam. So we got 96-81. Still not quite equaling the largest lead that Sac City has held during the game. That was 18 points towards the end of the first period. But a power start for, let's see, the star is going to Whiplash, number 15. Only one defender up at the top of the pack. Whiplash is through, earns lead. Chubakma back out on the track, not wearing the pivot or the jammer star. Maybe looking for an opportunity to pass that off. Whiplash makes it through for 5. Chubakma clear to score for No Coast. Whiplash calls it off. Chubakma did grab a point, as did Whiplash, so one apiece on that final pass. Takes the score to 102-82. 20-point lead for Sac City as they enter the triple-digit realm of scoring. Number 48, Frostbite, on the line for No Coast. Number 503, Enemy of the State for Sac City. Enemy of the State recycled back through the infield behind the jammer line, but immediately re-engaging the pack on the outside line. Frostbite is pushing and makes it out first. Lead jammer, No Coast. Enemy of the State has removed the star and passed it off to Sac City's pivot, who turns out to be, let's get a number there, number 69, that is Quickfire, the captain of Sac City. However, no opportunity to score for Sac City. 5 points picked up by Frostbite, who calls it off. So that will narrow the gap just a bit, 102-87. We do have 23 and a half minutes left in the game. We will see Slam Anderson coming back, doing work for No Coast, taking on number 1006, Naylor Swift for Sac City, who finds a hole on the inside, lead jammer for Sac City. Slam Anderson just now makes it out of the pack, a half turn behind Naylor Swift. Swift into the pack, 4 points, plays it safe, calls it off. Ended up picking up 2 on the jam. So 104-87 is your score. Advantage to the Sac City Rollers from Sacramento, California. Wearing the white, wearing the black are the No Coast Derby Girls from Lincoln, Nebraska. No Coast gives the star, I believe that's, I think I know who that is, but I want to be sure. Yes, that's number 451, Babe. And number 243, Slappa, has the star for Sac City. Lead jammer not yet declared. Oh, no, it is declared. I was wrong the first time. But now Slappa is declared lead. Controls the pace of this jam. Babe picked up a penalty. It is a power play for Sac City. Slappa calls it off. Earned 3 points on the jam, but also extended the power play into the next jam. Correction on the scoreboard. Let me change my own record here. We have 108 on the board for Sac City, 87 on the board for No Coast. That's the largest lead that Sac City has had, 21 points. Power start for Whiplash, who gets out for lead. Babe back on the track now, out of the penalty box. Whiplash into the pack, 4 points. Meeting resistance at the top of the pack. Finds a hole on the outside, gets through. That's earning 5 points for Whiplash. Whiplash through again. 5 fingers in the air from the jam ref. That's 10 so far on this jam. Babe has made it out of the pack with the jammer star for No Coast. Whiplash calls it off with 3 more, a total of 13 on the jam. A team timeout called by No Coast. That is their second, I believe? Yes. So that stops the clock at 20 minutes and 7 seconds remaining in the game. Score is 121 for Sac City, 87 for No Coast. A 34-point lead is, according to my notes, not only the highest that Sac City has had in the game, it is the highest lead that either team has had in the game. At one point in the first period, No Coast had a 29-point lead. So Sac City continuing the momentum that they were able to slowly build up over the course of the game. Unofficially, the high-scoring jammer, number 48, Frostbite, with 56 points. But just a little bit behind is Whiplash with 47 points. So the team timeout, which lasts 60 seconds, has concluded. Gearing up for our next jam with Frostbite on the line for No Coast. And let's see. My eyes are not working so well. That is Slappa? No, it is Enemy of the State with the star for Sac City. Enemy of the State tries on the outside line, goes down to the track, but not out of bounds, and able to get back up and re-engage, earns lead. Coming around 4 points. And it's a power play as Frostbite takes a seat for 30 seconds in the penalty box. That lets Enemy of the State pick up a grand slam of 5 points. Period clock heading for the 19-minute mark. Power play continues for Enemy of the State. And 5 more. Enemy of the State calls it off to ice Frostbite in the penalty box. Pun not actually intended, believe it or not. But it gives us a score of 131 to 87. And number 1006, Naylor Swift, comes out to jam for Sac City. Frostbite standing in the penalty box, meaning that fewer than 10 seconds remain on the penalty. Frostbite back in the mix, still eligible for lead, but Naylor Swift gets there first. Lead jammer Sac City. Coming in for points. Frostbite being held up at the back of the pack, just beyond turn number 2. Naylor Swift trying a run, but pushed to the infield, has to recycle. Frostbite has managed to get up to the top of the pack and is pushing on the inside, out and clear to score. Naylor Swift completes the scoring pass for 5 points and calls it. So about 17 and a half to play now. Sac City continuing with the momentum. They've got 49 points on top of No Coast, 136 to 87. Slam Anderson taking the star for No Coast. And Slappa for Sac City. A high block assessed to Slam Anderson. Power play goes to Sac City. Slappa not yet out of the pack, though. Swarmed by the No Coast defenders. Just beyond the pivot line. Whistle's blowing. An elbow penalty is being assessed. Slappa recycles. That elbow penalty appears to have been on number 88, Bubbles. Pivot for No Coast. Slappa makes it through the pack. Lead jammer. It did take nearly a minute. Slam Anderson out of the penalty box through the pack, clear to score. Closing the gap with Slappa. And Slappa calls it off in a defensive maneuver. No points on this jam. So that keeps the score at 136 to 87. Under 16 minutes to play now. Thanks again to everyone at home tuning in this weekend. Number 12, Chu Bachma, going to jam for No Coast. I'm poorly positioned to see. It is number 15, Whiplash, jamming for Sac City. First one through, in fact. Lead jammer is Whiplash. Chu Bachma tries on the inside line. And gets out on initial. Whiplash is scoring. 1 to beat. Gets out. 4 points and calls it off. That takes Sac City's lead to 53 points with under 15 minutes remaining in the game. 140 to 87. Timeout being signaled. An official review being called by No Coast. That stops the clock at 14 minutes and 40 seconds.
Always like to go out and ask them, official review, which color M&M is your favorite? It's never brown.
It looks like our next jammer for Sac City will be number 503, Enemy of the State. Not clear who the next jammer for No Coast will be. So stay tuned. If I do hear hear the subject matter of the official review, I will pass that along. Friends of Derby, thanks for tuning in to this online coverage of the 2017 edition of the BESTERNS tournament, hosted by the Rocky Mountain Roller Girls here at the Foothills Fieldhouse in Lakewood, Colorado. Preview of games yet to come tonight at 6 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. You'll see Arizona playing their first game of the tournament, taking on the Treasure Valley team from Boise, Idaho. And then at 8 p.m., both Wasatch and Rocky Mountain will play their first game of the tournament. We also have 7 games lined up for tomorrow, starting at 8 a.m., and the last game starts at 8 p.m. So a whole bunch of Derby for you. Sunday there are 5 games scheduled beginning at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. Last game, the championship, starts at 1 p.m. Mountain Time. And I am scheduled to bring that game to you folks on the stream as well. Official timeout now stretched to 2 minutes. I can now see that queued up to jam for No Coast will be number 34, Slam Anderson, who's been working really hard. This will be Slam's 15th jam of the game. It'll be jam number 9 for Enemy of the State. I did not hear the substance of the challenge, but it apparently was not granted. So No Coast will lose their official review for the period. They retain 1 team timeout. Sac City still has all 3 team timeouts and their official review. Slam Anderson powering through the pack. Lead jammer for No Coast. Enemy of the State also cleared a score. Slam calls it off with 2 unanswered points. Takes the score to 140 for Sac City, 89 for No Coast. Just over 14 minutes to play. Next up, Frostbite, also working hard this game for No Coast, taking on Nail Her Swift for Sac City. Swift bumped to the infield, recycles. Frostbite slogging up the middle and gets out. Lead jammer. A track cut called on Naylor Swift. It's a power play for for Frostbite. And that's 5 points on the No Coast side of the board. So that's going to reduce Sac City's lead below 50 points. Still a lot of ground to make up in the final 13 minutes remaining on the period clock. Rugged defense, making it really tough for Frostbite to pick up any more points. There's the call off with 4. Does not trap Naylor Swift in the penalty box. Correction, they have awarded 10 points on that jam to Frostbite, which is just enough to take No Coast to 99 points, 140 for Sac City. Slam Anderson taking on Slappa. Slam Anderson, lead jammer for No Coast. Each of these jammers gets lead a little more often than not. 56% for Slam, 60% for Slappa. In this case, Slam gets through the pack, picks up 3 points and calls it. And that will put No Coast into triple digits. A little bit of traction. They've earned lead the last 3 jams and have kept Sac City at 140. Still quite a bit of ground to make up, though. Number 48, Frostbite, right back to the line after 1 jam away. Number 15, Whiplash, jamming for Sac City. 11 minutes to play. Whiplash is the first one through this time. Lead jammer for Sac City. Frostbite struggling at the top of the pack. Does get through now. But a half-turn advantage for Whiplash, who's in the pack scoring. Ooh, I think Frostbite has stolen some points there. 2 for Sac City, 3 for No Coast. Takes our score to 142 to 105. Sac City hanging on to a 37-point lead. 10.5 to play. Slam Anderson and Frostbite have been alternating jams for the last several. Slam Anderson out there right now, taking on Enemy of the State. Sac City has stuck to their 4-jammer rotation for the most part. Clockwise block assessed to Sac City's number 10, Annie Rexick. Enemy of the State, lead jammer. But Slam Anderson out of the pack as well. Not far behind. Enemy of the State trying for points. Sac City gets 0, and No Coast steals 2. Continuing to chip away at Sac City's lead. It is now 35-point differential with under 10 minutes to play. So 35 points, 10 minutes, 3 points a minute. Could they do it? It's possible. Naylor Swift has the star for Sac City. Number 12, Chewbacca has the star for No Coast. The momentum at this moment is on No Coast's side, but they still have an uphill climb. Sac City definitely not letting up. A double penalty now assessed to number 3 from No Coast. Slide roller, who's wearing the pivot stripe. Lead jammer is Naylor Swift for Sac City. In a power play, as Chewbacca is also in the penalty box. 5 in the sky for Naylor Swift. That's going to interrupt No Coast's momentum. Number 1985, pivot for Sac City. Con Artist now is going to sit for 30 seconds. But 5 more points going to Naylor Swift. Power play is over with Chewbacca back in the mix for No Coast. And that's time on the jam with a third 5-point pass. I don't want to lie to you. Was it 4 or 5 on that last pass? Scoreboard is updated, and it was a 5-point pass. And we got 157 to 107, advantage Sac City. Frostbite jamming for No Coast. Slappa jamming for Sac City. Slappa trying on the outside. Yes, lead jammer for Sac City, but not quite free of the pack. Reabsorbed. But in a power play as Frostbite has gone to the penalty box. Frostbite standing now, but Slappa calls it off. No points on the jam, but a power start for the next one. 50-point lead for Sac City. 6.5 minutes on the clock. So the jammer for this power start is Whiplash for Sac City. Frostbite is standing, so fewer than 10 seconds remaining before re-entering the track, which actually happens as I speak. And Frostbite is through the pack first. Lead jammer for No Coast. Whiplash in hot pursuit. A quick call off for Frostbite. And it's a 2-0 jam favoring No Coast. Those points haven't gone on the official scoreboard yet. And they're going to call it 3 points, actually. So we've got 157 to 110. Only about 5 minutes to play. Slam Anderson jamming against Enemy of the State. Slam is lead. Enemy of the State still on initial, pushing at the front. Number 82, Bully McSkater, was the last defender. Now Enemy of the State is clear to score as well, but Slam Anderson has time to decide what to do. Calls off the jam. Good for 4 points. About 4.5 to play now. So No Coast making a strong effort to keep it close. They've kept the lead for Sac City between about 35 and 50 points for most of this period, but the lead remains. Frostbite jamming for No Coast against Naylor Swift for Sac City. Both jammers still on initial. Jammers choosing their moments to try and get through the pack. Naylor Swift makes it out first. Lead jammer for Sac City. Frostbite still within the pack. Recycled back behind the pack. 5 points going up on Sac City's side of the board now. Well, no, a track cut being assessed. Which means we don't have a lead jammer on this jam anymore. 52 seconds remaining on the jam. Around 3 minutes on the period clock. All right, so Frostbite removed the jammer cap, has broken out of the pack, is clear to score now. Cap is back on. Now the previous 5-point pass for Naylor Swift has been completed and is followed up by a 4-point pass after Swift returns from the penalty box. And that's time on the jam. 3 points picked up by Frostbite. Timeout being signaled. An official review on Sac City's side. So we got 166 to 117 on the board. The clock is stopped at 2 minutes and 11 seconds. 49-point differential favoring Sac City. We got enough time for, well, definitely one jam. The next jam could potentially be the last jam. I would say more likely to have 2 jams to go. And as I said, that lead for Sac City has been hovering between about 35 and 50 points since, about, call it 15 jams ago. No Coast has been able to keep it roughly even, but that's not enough when you're in a hole to start. So we need some super heroics here from No Coast for them to avoid the rankings upset for this game, which is something we've seen in every other game at this edition of BESTERNS so far. Got a lot of fans on the live chat Thanks for tuning in. Please do feel free to share this YouTube link with your social media friends and or teammates and or anybody else who would be interested in tuning into online roller derby. After this game, we do still have 2 games for the day. Arizona versus Treasure Valley at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Wasatch versus Rocky Mountain at 8 p.m. Mountain Time. That's not to mention 2 entire more days of derby. 7 games tomorrow, 5 on Sunday. Coming to you free of charge through the magic of the internet. How can you beat that? Thanks again for tuning in. My name is Mark Bradford. Some people call me Brad Example. So the teams, I don't think, are entirely sure on what's going on either. I do see the officials now explaining things to representatives of the teams, so we should have a resolution on this official review pretty soon. 3 minutes have elapsed so far. But fortunately, we have 2-hour time slots for each game, so we're not delaying ourselves. Okay, so the call was not overturned. I think they were looking for an overturn of a jammer cutting call. So 2 minutes, 11 seconds remain. Game back underway. Slam Anderson jamming for No Coast. Slappa jamming for Sac City. Slam Anderson through. Lead jammer for No Coast. Slappa gets out of the pack. Clear to score for Sac City. Slam Anderson in control. Calls off the jam as Slappa approaches. It's 3 points for No Coast. Team timeout called by No Coast. That's their last one. That stops the clock with 1 minute and 33 seconds on it. But they have no further opportunity to stop the clock. Wait a second. I was wrong about who called that timeout. They're now signaling that it was Sac City calling the timeout. Wait a second. Okay, I think in this case, the scoreboard may be incorrect because the jam timer is signaling No Coast as the team that called the timeout. Well, stay tuned. We'll see what happens. What I do know is the clock is stopped at 1 minute and 33 seconds, and I do know that Sac City holds a 46-point lead, 166 to 120. And I also know that Slam Anderson is poised to jam yet again for No Coast, taking on Whiplash from Sac City. Slam Anderson, this is turn number 20 on the jammer line. My goodness. Jam is underway. Okay, the scoreboard has been updated to indicate no timeouts remaining for No Coast and 3 remaining for Sac City, so I think I was right about the indication. Nevertheless, Slam Anderson is through first, lead jammer for No Coast, and in fact in a power play as Whiplash takes a seat in the penalty box. Slam Anderson held back by a single defender, does get out. 5 points for Slam Anderson. Clockwise blocking penalty called on number 12 for Sac City. That's Devis Gator. Slam Anderson continuing to engage the pack. Whiplash back on the track, through the pack, clear to score. Coming up on the pack, in for points. Slam Anderson has the option of calling it off. There's only a, okay, the period clock has now expired, so the end of this jam is the end of the game. 4 more points per jammer, so we're currently standing at 9-4, favoring No Coast on this jam. Both jammers back into the pack for more points. Only 8 seconds left in the jam. Whiplash called for a cut, but that's not going to change the outcome of the game. Time expires. 3 final points for Whiplash and Sac City, and three final points on the other side of the board as well. So when the smoke clears, we got 173 to 132 on the scoreboard. We do have a 5th rankings upset this weekend. That's 5 for 5. Holy cow. Okay, so we're sending Sac City around on a victory lap. I see the Arizona Tent City Terrors lined up to play their game, which is going to be in about 25 minutes. Consolation lap for No Coast, skating around the arena. So, according to my highly unofficial statistics, Sac City wound up with 56% of the lead calls, 40% for No Coast. The high jammer of the game is Frostbite for No Coast with 75 points, followed by Slam Anderson with 48. But on the other side of the equation, each of Whiplash and Naylor Swift picked up 60, and that made the difference. So we now see an official final score, 173 to 132. Sac City takes it. You have been tuned into online coverage of BESTERNS 2017, brought to you by the Rocky Mountain Roller Girls from the Foothills Fieldhouse in Lakewood, Colorado. Thank you for joining us. My name is Mark Bradford, also known as Brad Example. I'll be seeing you online tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in, and come back at 6 o'clock for the next game of BESTERNS.